Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm good. Um,
It's been a little while.
I was just gonna say that. I feel like I haven't talked to you in so long.
Yeah, it may have been December actually, if
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I think probably at least maybe the beginning of December.
Yeah, I got really sick. I did some pretty aggressive stuff on here, and then I ended up, I'm pretty sure, getting some retaliation, and anyway, getting really sick, and and then that's kind of given me a little bit of caution in the way that I approach things, and so yeah. In fact, this is probably one of the first spaces that I've actually run that I wanted to take serious and try to actually address some new things that are being revealed that are related to old things that we already know. So just trying to go ahead.
I said I hear ya. It sounds like all of us going to close for space and try to bring everyone over here for a little while. Just giving you a warning.
Oh yeah, well that's great. Yeah, that's cool. I just want to basically kind of stick with the topic, if we can, and I want to start with the neural swarm and briefly discuss what that is, and then we can go and work at different angles on what I'd like to do in a non uh, aggressive or non combative way, but in a constructive way. If anybody has questions, like says, well, I can't even believe that's possible. Come on, tell me how that works, right? That we can then say, well, here's how this piece works. Here's how that piece works. Here's, and then we can really dissect it, and go as deep as people want to go on whatever avenue. And then I'll try to present some key things that I just want people to maybe notice and be aware of. Some of them I may have repeated in another space. I'll try not to do too much of that. But so yeah, that's
Hey,
where I'm kind of coming from.
it makes sense to me, man. I'm going to be mostly in listener mode until you guys get to the health portion end of it. If I'll be useful, then I'll come back up.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. And I had asked a couple people to do co-hosting, and so we'll just see if the others show up or not, and we'll go from there. And if somebody else maybe in the meantime wants to do it, just understanding it's temporary. If I hadn't already asked you and someone else comes in, I just don't want to be rude because I invited them, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so let's see what the hands have to say, and then we'll just kind of get this rolling. I think it was woke.
Yeah, woke was before me.
Yeah. Thank you, Kai.
Hi guys, NW. As far as you already know, I'm sure. On a positive note, you only get fired on when you're flying over the target. So as far as that retaliation goes, that's a good sign.
Hey, thank you. That's true. You don't want to waste that anti-aircraft ammo unless there's an actual enemy over there, right?
Yeah,
So
Holly and I were just having a conversation about that like an hour ago off of Twitter. There seems to be some of that going around over like increasingly over the last couple few months or so.
Oh yeah. We could probably do a whole space on the transition of Twitter since Christmas, because just around Thanksgiving, it was pretty much standard way it always had been, and then right around the Christmas time, around the time that stuff happened with myself too. Not saying it had anything to do with that, but up between Christmas and New Year's, right? Everything kind of shifted, and then all of a sudden we start getting these like millionaires and billionaires hosting spaces with thousands of people, and everything is kind of just like. Oh, and then I don't know about everybody in here, but myself have seen, I don't know, pretty much. I didn't do anything. I was just sick, and I can't believe how many relationships have just people have just on their own done all these different battles and fights and wars and breaking up, and then oh my gosh, people are just like they're losing it. But it actually fits in with what I'll be talking about today. It all makes sense when we understand with what we're dealing with. So, Go ahead, Kai.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the word swarm in the title.
Yeah, I was actually trying to find the specific. It's what do you call that? An acronym of. It stands. It's wireless. Oh gosh, I something. I tell you what, we'll figure it out today in one of the papers. It should be listed. I was trying to find it specifically, but it's about wireless access, remote. Remote, basically memory or something. I can't remember again. We'll figure it out. We'll find that today. Uh, that was what I was just looking for. Where I was a couple minutes late, and I know that seems kind of
I
corny that I don't know it, but
Yeah, since you don't remember that offhand, I'll say I've been noticing like a rapid, kind of like this rapid, I don't know what to call it exactly, like mentality or what, growing that. I won't get too far off into that. I think people can get the main idea, but like the people that want to like stay natural, like we'll just be, we'll be the old fogies, like we'll be, those that are stuck in the past and like we're holding on to our past and that kind of thing. I've just kind of seen that mentality mounting like slowly, and seems like it's ramping up. I don't know if that's something you've noticed, but
oh yeah, it is something I have noticed. Things have been just like ramping up, as I think you just said, right? It's been just oh, people's people's minds, and I noticed it when the shot first came out. I noticed changes in people that I had known for 30 to 50 years. Personality changes almost instantaneously. um, but I wasn't aware of all of the possible ways and mechanisms that could actually really happen, other than, I knew they had like drugs for lying and getting people to truth serums and all that, but shifting personalities or causing people to have anxiety all the time. I wasn't sure about those types of mechanisms. Now that I've learned about that, I've learned there's multiple ways to do that. So anyway, yeah, that's all part of it. So hey, I did find what the neural swarm stands for according to this document, but it doesn't seem to match up with the letters. Here, I'll read it to you. But here we go. It is. Give me a second to get back to it. Says that it's short for Neurophotonic Solution Dispersible Wireless Activity Reporters for Massively Multiplexed Measurements. Is made up of engineered electroplasmonic nanoparticles that convert electrical signals in the brain to optical signals that can be tracked with an optical detector located outside the body. The system on a nanoparticle, which is similar to the size of a viral particle, by the way, oh, what a coincidence, includes wireless powering, electro physiological signal detection, data broadcasting capabilities, all in one device. Okay, so that's one of the explanations of what it is. That's a little farther than I wanted to go in the very first, but there you go. Um,
well,
so
what's
you,
the one device?
um, well, your brain. It's your brain.
So that
The,
so
the
in short, what you're saying is like biologically
biologically,
connecting humans
yeah.
to the Internet of Things, right?
Let me read you the other description of it on the other one of the links. I'm going to be posting these links in the thread and stuff, so you guys can have all the articles on each one. So let me read you the other one. I think. Give me just a second. Oh, come on, don't lock up on me now, phone. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me. So here's a little simpler way of saying it. Scientists have come up with a revolutionary biosensor that can be injected into the bloodstream to potentially monitor thoughts. The microscopic nanosensors named Neuroswarm 3 can center the bloodstream and travel to the brain where they can turn neural activity into electrical signals, which allows them to be analyzed by machinery. Scientists at the University of California in Santa Cruz have found. According to this team of scientists, technology could grant additional mobility to people with disabilities or not, and as well as help them understand the processes through which greater degree in testing on humans and animals. Goes on and it talks about the ability to run an exoskeleton from your mind. Okay, so what we have here, and I wanted to make sure that everyone understood and caught a little caveat between those two articles, is one said that Neuroswarm would connect and interface through electrical wave frequencies, right? Wasn't frequencies, radio, wasn't that the one I just read? And the other one said optical detectors through light. Now, what Neuroswarm is Neuroswarm is a basically a little nanoscaled computer. Size are smaller than a virus, gold plated and coated so that it can pass through the blood brain barrier without hurting you. And it is literally engineered to go through. It's the reason it's called Swarm 3 is, well, the three part, probably the third round, but the reason it's called Swarm is it goes in and it swarms in the brain, and it basically goes throughout the brain, attaching to a bunch of different types of neurons, and maps the brain, creating a fingerprint, if you will, of your brain, but with nanotechnology attached to the neurons throughout your brain, so that you're basically creating a virtual, like a suspended virtual brain in parallel to your brain, all simultaneously, if you will. And this interfaces out with the world. Now, not every cell and every neuron, of course, but enough that they can do this. And one of the reasons that they're doing this is because they have been developing technology to use and do mind control through all these other mechanisms, but your body tends to want to fight this because we are created by our creator, and we have the ability to resist a lot of this stuff. And so unless they go in and literally attach to parts of us to force an override of like ion channels for our thoughts, and so on and so forth. One of the things that some of these other nano particles do that are in the shot, go and attach to like ferritin, which affects the ion channels that have to do with the firing of neurons. And then computers can then control and select which neurons at which sequences to control whether you walk, talk, stop, do whatever it is. So again, that running complex machinery. So we'll go a little farther, but I see the co-host has her hand up, so go ahead, Scene Double.
Thanks. So I was going to ask you, I saw someone here on Twitter reference a research article that was published out of MIT related to all of this. And it was what they referenced was graphene based nanotechnology capable of all of this. And they
Yep.
said it was published in 2018. You wouldn't happen to have seen that, would you? I asked them,
I
but I haven't
may
heard back.
I may actually have that one. I have some articles that I was going to talk about and post in here. The ones that I was referring to, they go back, some of these ones, they go back to 2014. So this is what I want people to try to process. Some of these things are as far back as 2014, which means they're almost a decade old. That almost a decade ago, they had the technology to conceivably do this stuff. If you understand the exponential growth of technology in the last decade, you realize that, I don't have access to the deepest, it's beyond even what we're talking about. Our imaginations may not even be up with it. But what I do know, and what I do know they can do, and what I do know they are doing, is terrifying in its own right. I see it like this: if they can just use radio frequency to stop you from walking down the street and lock you up, or if they can just use radio frequency to cause you to have sickness and feel terrible and throw up and miserable and have tinnitus, or they can use radio frequency to cause you to have constant anxiety and stress and fear or anger or rage, uh, that's all bad enough. That's really bad enough. And that's all known science. That's all doable. Go ahead, Wilknot.
Yeah, I believe it's been known for a number of years now that these 5G electric meters on your house are making people sick in a number of different ways.
Yeah, and they choose and pick when they do what they do with them, like whether or not to affect you.
Yeah, I should have said smart meters, not necessarily 5G, but I guess now some of them
I knew
are.
what you meant.
Yeah.
And isn't it those that are the ones that are triggered every night or whatever at like 3 to 4 a.m. in the morning, where they do their
Yeah,
down? What's that?
yeah, I see
Or
where
who
you're
is?
going. It
Because I
wouldn't
know there's
surprise me
something.
because,
Well, there's something that I know that wakes up people all over the world, no matter where they are, around 3 o'clock in the morning, between 3 and 4 in the morning.
oh,
And yeah. Is there anybody in here in this room that has that happen? It's had that happen start in the last 2 to 3 years. Myself, I'm one. I'm one. No matter what I do, I get woke up between 3 and 4:30. Okay, see, there's some other people too. Cool. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Sadly, I also discovered maps showing rollouts of updated 5G frequency boosting in all the places that people have been being sick lately. And there's more to come. And it's going to be increased even at a much higher level. So, hey, yeah, go ahead, seeing, and then the prophet.
I was going to make a comment about the waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. So within medicine, specifically acute medicine, like within a hospital, we call that the witching hour. And there are actually multiple studies which which say that it's related to our circadian rhythms relationship to the change in magnetic force as the globe, this planet turns. And the reason it's been researched so extensively is because that's when we see an increase in cardiac events. It used to be said that night shift nurses were lazy, and that's why there were so many cardiac events. But they since, thankfully, have actually been able to relate it back to this. It's actually a biological process related to our environment. But I wonder, in listening to you speak, if more people perhaps are experiencing this as there's greater interference um, with those circadian cycles related to these microwaves and radio waves, which are being put out in greater force.
Oh, I think absolutely it's related. Totally, totally, totally. Yeah, I don't even, yeah, I have no doubt, really, personally. Go ahead, the prophet.
Yo, what's up, MW? Long time, buddy. How you been?
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm okay, man. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man. Just
Nice to see you.
yeah, you too. Just fixing to hop into the airport. I'm actually traveling to LA, California, just to visit some friends. But it's interesting that that you actually made this space up because I was actually testing something for myself. So I bought these AirPods, the new generation from Apple. So um there was like a voice in the back of my head. Like I already knew this was out there. It's just there was a voice in the back of my head telling me like, what if everything is all bullshit and everything is inside our heads and then we're all like exactly what people say that we are, conspiracy theories. Because I was aware of it. It's just I never really felt it. So I did the study on my own. So I was my own guinea pig. and I was wearing the AirPods um, for about 4 to 5 weeks, I should say, and then uh, in the beginning of the 6th week, I started to feel kind of like nauseated, and I was feeling like how like I was just not me, like as if my dopamine levels just fucking fell to the ground or something. Like I didn't want to do anything. I was like, man, I feel like really groggy, and I'm in good health. I really, really, really healthy. I rarely don't even go eat outside. And so once like I kind of like put the pieces together that maybe these radio waves that I'm basically blasting through my eardrums, is basically true. Because in a way, I felt like I was melting my own brain, uh, just from the experience.
You're right. Actually, you're right. No, the AirPods do that. I actually, before all of this started, I had went out and bought before COVID even broke out. I just went out and bought a brand new top of the line Apple Watch and AirPod things, and I started experiencing some of the same things that you're talking about. And then I started looking into it, like you said, and then I got some devices and tested them. And one of the things I was really shocked is that the AirPods actually produce more of an electromagnetic frequency, a stronger and more intense and powerful frequency than all of the other devices, phones, anything I own or possess. It's more from those AirPods or those earbuds or whatever they're called, the ones from Apple, and uh, and yes, they then put those two magnetic fields on either side of your head, and then radio frequencies into you, and can absolutely hurt you. And when you stop using them, you'll probably feel a lot better, right?
So now in the process where I'm at right now is I had to take some Tylenol, so that way the headaches and the migraines can just like go away, and so I can just like heal my own brain. So now, I started doing that this past Sunday, and the first thing I did on Sunday, whenever I got rid of the AirPods, I bought a whole bunch of blueberries because blueberries are the ones that repair damage and new coming brain cells. It's what they do. So I've been eating a whole bunch of them, and I can still feel like the headaches just a little bit, but they're very minor. Like it's bearable. Like I can withstand it. Was just like uh, a pill of Tylenol, And so with the blueberries, is it's actually helped me. Blah. You see, I can't even talk straight right now. Golly, it's helping me recover properly to where I was thinking, fast, quick, and I was learning things pretty solid and fast. Now I'm just like groggy, but I do feel getting better though as soon as I got rid of them.
Yeah, and making people feel groggy and changing people's moods is part of the whole system. And one of the things that's really frustrating about this is that there are so many different ways to the same result. It can be a side effect from the pharmaceutical drugs. It can be things in our food. It can be through radio and television and frequencies that we're exposed to, or industrial stuff that we're exposed to, or it can be from our phone directly, okay, or it can be from the shots that we're getting. And so there's just like so many ways that they're doing it, and so many of these things cause an immune response that we have to really be careful and decide for ourselves. What is it that's causing whatever we're having? Is it you're just sick? Is it an increase in something? Is it your power box thing that we were talking about? What is causing your issue, and then address it. Go ahead, Wogna.
You know, what's really sickening, MW, is they come out with these technologies, and whatever the first few were that affect people, and maybe the vaccines and light, and then injecting the stuff into you so it can cross a blood brain barrier and read your thoughts. It just seems, well, definitely probably true. Every time they come out with something new, they look to see what they can merge it with or just attack us with, along with all the other stuff separately. And it's really sickening, man. We're probably be hitting being hit 20, 30, 40 different ways. It's mind blowing. I can't hear anybody if anybody's talking.
Oh, I wasn't. I was trying to tweet something in the bubble. Go ahead. Is it Gamma Gamma? How do you say that? Jima Jima?
Jima for grandma. That's what my
Okay.
grandkids call me, Jima.
Yeah. We called my mom Gma. So same thing. Cool.
Yeah. So the waking up. Thank you for taking my call. The waking up. I did that for years. 3 o'clock every single morning, wide awake, no sleep. Brain is going 150 miles an hour. That went on for years. Then we moved. We moved about 15 miles from where we originally were, and it wasn't happening as often. We don't have smart meters on either home, so I know it wasn't the smart meters. Um, I'm be okay. It stopped when, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but it stopped when the trails from the plains diminished. That's when it stopped. And then when we moved into the new house, when we're in a ridge area, so we're like all the planes are on the outsides of us. We don't see them. We can hear them now and again, but we don't see them. But we do see the trails. And I noticed that there's a lot less now than there was a year ago. But what I noticed is when we did have a lot of them in the sky, I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I was also developing migraines every single day. And I don't take pharmaceuticals. I would rather drink lemon balm tea. I do not take pharmaceuticals. Um, so after that, it just diminished. It went away. And then I read an article from military.com, and it said something about what they were dispersing in those trails. And they mentioned micro metals, some type of micro metals. And then not too long ago, I read another article that told me that they no longer are doing that. So all I can go is by my symptoms, and my symptoms are gone. No more migraines, no more waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the trails, I don't even see them every day. Once in a blue moon, I see them now, and they are not followed by a day of rain. So something's changed because they were always followed by a day of rain, always. And now they're not. So that's what I think was happening to me. It just was all together. It's just the pieces. I just put them together, and that's how it fit. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else want to
Thank
speak?
you.
If you do, go ahead. I'm gonna talk about some more about the specifics of this swarm and some of the technology around it. But if anybody else wanted to say anything, go ahead. I'm gonna throw something in the tweet bubble again too right now. Okay. Well, then I guess we'll just keep moving forward. Um, so what with the Elon Musk aspect of the coming swarm is that neural swarm is the technology, and this is all being kept really like super scrubbed from the internet. It's hard to put some of this stuff together. Now, if somebody finds something more than I'm presenting or additional, I'm always open to it. Throw it up. Let's go. But they I've only found one or two things that reference this, it's kind of on the DL, on the hush hush. Um, he does. Elon Musk does mention the technology, and I have posted this before. It's on my timeline that they've moved on from the Neuralink chip, where they drill the hole in your head and go and put a chip in your brain and have wires connected to it. And now they've gone to what he called Neuralace, and Neuralace is where they inject nanotechnology into your blood, and it goes in through your blood and into your brain, and allows you to interface with computer technology in the cloud. Now, if you were listening earlier, anyone was here earlier, we talked about NeuroSwarm both in two ways. One article said it was able to interface through optics, and the other one said it was able to do it through radio waves. And so Musk, and one of them was to operate machinery and operate exoskeletons, and Elon Musk was to go into the cloud. I just posted another article in the little tweet bubble that will talk about some of the potential. It's vast, the amount of different things that this is coming up to be used for. It's in some ways it's almost overwhelming, the amount of information. One way to think about this is that how we build everything in the world today, how we discovered the wheel and fire and electricity and machinery and the industrial revolution, and how we used to build big giant things, and now we build smaller and lighter, and to get more out of everything, like cars, for example. Cars weigh way less and have a lot more power than they used to have, even though they seem to have more in the past. um, and so we're always trying to improve this stuff. Well, what nanotechnology has done is it's taken from what we had as bricks and big building blocks and big things that turned into like down to transistors, which turned into microchips. uh, Now we're getting into this nanotechnology, and we are able to basically recreate anything that you can imagine in the real world at the scale of virus particles. So we can build machineries that produce things with a production line. We can build vehicles that move around. We can build things that have working parts on them, like excavators and submarines and bulldozers and all kinds of fun tools and things. And then when they're in the world of our bodies, they're in kind of a submerged liquid world. So there's different ways of moving them about and stuff. So anyway, again, all real stuff. I want to try to talk briefly about this articles that I put in the tweet. One of them is from the National Institute of Health paper posted called, and I think this paper is from 2014. So now keep this in mind: 2014. Conscious, while you're awake, brain to brain communications in humans using non invasive technologies. And this entire paper is about that, with materials and the methods. And they use uh, external devices when they're doing this. A lot of it is attached to the outside of your head, using radio frequencies and stuff, to reach in that way. So this is kind of the beginning of radio frequencies are able to, reach into our brain and do communication back and forth. And that's what I don't think there's even any nanotech in this. I think that's just uh, them being able to do that level of what they're doing through these machines and devices. The other one that I threw up there is an article from Medium. It's called The Fork in the Road. And I won't read the whole article, but it talks about it was April 24th, 2015, 6 years ago on this, from this article then. So it was written in 2021. And it says, and the world changed in a massive way that few understand in 2021. This was the release date of a device that would actively track human biometrics and telemetry and sold at a mass scale. Although there were antecedent devices spanning back to the 60s, this was the first time such telemetry system was embedded into a mass consumer product. What was this first mass scale human biometrics telemetry sensor? Heart rate monitor? What was the device? The original Apple Watch. This was the beginning of tricking and fooling people into the concept of biometrics and monitoring our biometrics. The smart ID that we were talking about in the other space earlier, that states are requiring people to have with the chips in it. That's another type of a biometrics storage that will have information about our bodies. It's all about getting us conditioned and desensitized and programmed and ready for the idea of having biometric monitoring and having biometric sensors and having our bodies constantly monitored, and then eventually using us as and again, some of these articles that I'm talking about today, I'll talk about this, using us as the power source and for some of the machinery and stuff that they'll build inside of us so that we won't even actually one day need our phones. At first, our phones will be there. The phones right now, the new neural lace system that's changed, where Elon Musk is using the neural swarm technology to call it as neural lace. The phone will actually be now called the neural link, and that'll be connected to you, and then it'll connect to the Internet of Things. Go ahead, see.
Well, I was just going to expand on that a little bit, and say that someday is coming very soon, because there are already very large companies announcing um, that they will be utilizing this technology by, big surprise, 2030. And I know you've seen it. For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's pinned on my bio here on Twitter. But um, remember early last year that website that I happened upon, Michael, from Vodafone, where their plan is to, not Vodafone themselves, but someone's plan is to integrate this into our bodies so that um, they can control our bodies, they can communicate with our bodies. But on this website, this beautiful slide presentation, for those of you who don't know, shows that they will be implementing technology used implement technology which is embedded into our bodies and at a cellular level, or possibly within our DNA. I wasn't real clear, but they'll be able to utilize this in smart cities, 15-minute cities, which they go into in this slide presentation, but also having things like mirrors, which are able to communicate with our body and read our vital signs, diagnose. So they're obviously communicating with our bodies and reading our bodies at a cellular level in order to do this. But you're right, Michael. They're going to. It's not just the nanotechnology embedded within us. They're also going to have something. They'll need something which can relay this information back to wherever it is that they need to send this information to, whomever it is that is going to want to have access to it. Otherwise, like, what is the purpose, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and that's what the phones are for right now. In this level of technology, the phones are going to be the interface between you and your body will interface with your phone or say a
right.
watch, and
But
then it
see,
will interface with the internet of the rest of the world.
on this website that Vodafone created uh, to demonstrate the technology they will have in place by 2030, like, you won't even any longer need a cell phone. It will just be transmitted directly from your body.
Well, yeah. I
Yeah,
was just saying the cell phone's the first stage. The
right,
first
right.
stage is getting the nanotechnology in you. Then it connects with the phone or the watch, and then that goes out to the world. And then the next stage, the next phase of that is, and that's what they call body area networks, and that's why they've been trying to condition people about staying 6 feet apart, because in those body area networks where the human is everything, where you are the whole system, and you don't need any other device, then they started having interference in the tests that they were running, and so if people stayed 6 feet apart, the whole system operated much better. And that's one of the reasons that's part of that behavioral training that they started a long time ago. And the body area networks are then connected to other networks like the Internet of Things or the web or whatever. And so, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's where it's leading to. But they're doing it in stages. And so the first stage is no nanotech in you, getting you used to wearing biometric sensors and being used to the idea of, oh, I can know what my heart rate is. Oh, I know what my blood pressure is. Oh, I know what my blood sugar is. Oh, I can tell I'm stressed out today. Oh, I slept really well and got a lot of REM sleep last night, and or oh, I was in a deep sleep. All these variables about ourselves, and so we get so conditioned and used to that. And so then when the next step of technology comes up, and then when somebody's like, well, gee, did you already know that you pretty much got all of the technology in you from your vaccine? If you just take this one more shot, you won't even need your phone anymore, or your watch. I mean, it's just kind of leading us down this path, a little step at a time. Like how we've gotten to where we are. Again, if you believe your cell phone that you hold in your hand is working, you have to believe in the technology we're talking about, because it's the same.
Well, and I mean, this isn't conspiracy theory. I'm scrolling down and looking at the faces in here, and like they're all familiar faces for the most part, but there are a couple of people I'm not familiar with. So like if anyone has doubt about this and thinks, oh goodness, that's just conspiracy theory, it's backed by science. Like you don't have to believe it, but it doesn't make it any less true. It's published scientific articles, research articles, press releases for technology which has been developed in prominent university scientific labs, MIT, UCI, UCLA, Vanderbilt. Like this isn't theory. It's already out there. Although one could argue it is definitely conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy against people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, against all of us. That's what it is. Yeah, and it's not a theory, it's a real thing. I'm probably not going to make many comments on the posts I do in this thread. I'm just going to put up articles and things, and people can read them and decide what you want. We can always talk about it. But we're talking about pieces out of each of them as we go along. But you're right. This isn't theory. It's conspiracy, and it's laid out. I mean, they didn't hide it either. It's all spelled out in their documents. It goes clear back into the 90s, and the goal to modify the human genome, to map it first and then to modify it. And many countries like the United Kingdom and Canada and the United States and some other countries and the United Nations have all stated that they have a goal of modifying the human genome for a variety of reasons, and they list those reasons. And one is to make better soldiers, and another one is to change attributes about us for controllability and other types of aspects. Of course, they have their own personal goals too, but they're all spelled out, and they're not hiding it. Does anybody have any questions or anything about anything we've talked about so far?
Not yet. Everything seems very interesting.
So I actually have a question for you, Michael, or anyone else that I may have shared this with. Maybe mid last year, a friend of mine, while they were deep diving in the dark recesses of the dark web or deep web, they came across through through a back door, came across a research that had not been published publicly, but that was still under development, but it was old. I don't know, maybe a decade and a half old. But it discussed self-replicating nanobots, which were able to do this uh, based on your DNA. So that is to say, it used your DNA to self-replicate within your body. Um, and I know I shared it with some people. I thought I shared it with you. I did post it on Twitter, but sometime last year, before Elon came along, um, I had several things that just kind of disappeared from my timeline that I had posted. No warnings, no suspension, just like were scrubbed. And that was one of them. So I can't find it again. But if anyone has that, if you could DM it to me, I'd be most appreciative. Do you have that, Michael? Did I send that to you?
If I do, I need to go look through it. Go look through some of my papers because I have quite a few. Do me a favor, DM me the name as well as you remember it, and then I'll search through my stuff and see what I can find and pull it up if I can.
Santo, go ahead. What you got for us?
Yes, thank you. I've only been listening for a couple minutes, but I would like to address a couple things. First, I've been a student of history for a long time, and particularly some of the great events of our recent history are in my lifetime. And many times when I try to talk to people about it, I'm called a conspiracy theorist. Well, my dear, anyone who understands history knows that all of history is conspiracies. It's full of conspiracy. And what does that word mean? It generally means a group of people who get together to do something in secret, generally for nefarious or evil reasons. History is full of conspiracies. So when somebody calls, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings here, I'm trying to be accurate and I'm trying to help. When people call me a conspiracy theorist, I want to say to them, you are either one of two things. You are either uninformed and ignorant. And now, ignorant and stupid are not the same thing. But I will say this, when you want to remain ignorant about something that is very important, that makes you stupid. So when people call me a conspiracy theorist, it's either by someone who is either evil. I mean, look at how often that term is used in the media today to talk about somebody who has just done the work to find out what the hell is going on. Truth is the hate speech of our society today. And the most maligned people are those who have done the work to tell the truth about things that other people need to know about. And one other thing, and then I will shut my speaker off. AI, in my opinion, will be used to control, not to liberate. I've been fearfully and wonderfully made by God, and walking with the source of all truth and wisdom, Jesus Christ, makes you a lot smarter too. I'd rather find wisdom that way than trust a government who has proved themselves to be untrustworthy virtually my whole 71 years, to all of a sudden they care about me enough to make me better. Sorry, I'm just not that stupid. Thank you.
Just wanted. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say real quick, thank you for that, Santo, and I think that's a really important thing for people to remember in being called conspiracy theorists. You're right; like there have been conspiracies probably since the beginning of time, but definitely since the beginning of recorded time, um, and theories cease to be theories when you have tangible proof. So conspiracies, yes, but they're conspiracies at this point against the people. Um, Go ahead, Kimber, and welcome.
I just wanted to say that love doesn't come before truth. we're taught a lot to love before truth, right? And just to kind of live life with that mindset. But it's really that love is a stepping stone for truth. Love comes out of truth. And truth is like being a good friend, right? You know, like really being able to be honest and truthful, you know? And so that's how we should walk in our life, is knowing that the truth is that we're extremely powerful beings, boundless. We're boundless beings. And that the more love we put out into the world, the more we will receive, because love is a free currency. It's actual currency when we give our time, attention, care, everything to, uplifting the creator and creation together, by receiving, you know. Um, so I have personally been off grid for a couple of years, and that's because I made choices in my life that, made me end up here. And I joined Twitter a few weeks ago, and I've just been basically trying to show people, like, there is another way. You can only serve one master, and the master that I want is really just a good shepherd. And if we can walk out of our houses every day being the good shepherd to everyone that we meet, and really see God in them and love in them and a fragment of your beautiful heart in them, because we've totally completely chosen love in our life, in our hearts, in our body, in our universe, in our before time and everything, then that's it. When I get into that mindset, I just remind myself that that was yesterday. We have control today. We own the media. We've got this. They're done. Stop paying taxes. Let's make a magic hat. Let's have rainbow gatherings and start celebrating our liberation. And let's do it just like that.
Thank you for that. And I agree with most of it. I think first it's important to remember that, like, we have a choice in this. I don't know that I agree that we have control of the media. I mean, we clearly don't at this point. We don't have control over a lot of those kinds of things, but we have control of ourselves, and we still have choice. Sometimes with those hard choices that we have to make, come consequences, and you have to decide if you can live with those or not. But we always have a choice, and we have the choice in all of this. We can choose to not participate. We can choose to not comply. We can choose to opt out. Again, with that comes consequences sometimes. Like with the jab, right? You chose not to take it, and so maybe you were fired from your job. And so with that choice came maybe financial hardship for some people. So sometimes these hard choices have consequences, but you have to look at the bigger picture, uh, and determine if um, those consequences that come with those choices are worth the outcome, the end goal, right? Because that's what's important to keep in mind. But I do fully agree with you. In the end, God always wins. God wins. That doesn't mean that we don't fight. That doesn't mean that we don't do our part to help others. But in the end, God wins. There's always a happy ending. Um, so with that, we will go to Santo.
Thank you, Kimber. There was some nuggets of truth
That
in.
was Michelle. That was me.
Uh, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was Kimber Rose, but whoever said what they said right before seeing double. Um,
Oh no, that was Kimber then. Yep.
okay. Uh, the Bible says we speak the truth in love. Okay, and so
Wait,
you
okay.
love is very powerful, And, I have a spiritual mother who was not my real mother, who was a very powerful woman because of all the love that she had for me and others. Now, I will say, and I won't belabor this in scripture, but there are some people who will not receive it. And so it's wasted on them. And the way to overcome the restraints and the bondage that the world, through the government or through other entities, want to lay upon us, the way to overcome that is to care about others and to do for others. We live our life with an eternal perspective, and the only thing that will really make it into eternity is those things that we have done to help others uh, by the truth and by liberty, help them to find liberty. And when we do that for them, Christ says that we've done it for him. So it is true. If we spend our life serving God, we will not serve Mammon, who wants to just ride our backs as heavily as they possibly can until we fall into the grave. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. You cannot serve both, one or the other. And yeah, I wish that we could all. I guess I myself could feel comfortable enough that everybody was aware of what you just said, and we could just step away from this technology, and it would stop coming at us, and we could get to a real life living in a natural, balanced, good, happy life. But if we're not aware of what's coming and we're not aware of what's being done, we can be swept up. And, faith without works is dead, and we need to be aware. Uh, uh, yeah, we can't just sit back and let this happen to us. So, if it's okay, I'd like to kind of move a little bit forward, or in a different, I guess, keep moving on to this subject a little bit. I want to make sure
Hey,
there's, yeah,
Michael.
just a second, seeing. I want to make sure that nobody has any questions though about the stuff we talked about before we start adding anything to it. So go ahead. What's up, Seeing?
Well, I received a DM from someone in the space who isn't able to speak, asking if I could have you speak about the quantum dot.
Oh yeah, quantum. Yeah, I could speak some about that. What I may do is when we're in having a discussion, give me where I can have a minute to kind of go back in the background and dig up a couple things because I've kind of set up for doing this subject. It's a little outside. It's related though. It is related. So yeah, we can go there. But let's kind of wrap some of this up first. And Bob, are you not able to speak? I invited Bob the Bear up. I don't see his. If you can't speak, Bob, can you give me a signal? Or I guess if I get no signal, I'll assume you can't hear me. Okay, I'm gonna guess maybe he doesn't hear me and he's not here. Okay, go ahead. What's up, Zine?
Oh, I was just going to say, I just sent him a request in case he wasn't able to see yours.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was asking him to come up and speak, and that'd be great. Okay, so I wanted to know if anyone had any questions about the concept of the swarm that they're using these nanoparticles they can inject in your blood. They'll go through the blood-brain barrier, attach to parts of your brain, and help map your brain and allow you to attach to wirelessly to modern technology. Everything from exoskeletons to other types of machinery. And can be transmitted or read in both light and radio frequency, and probably electromagnetic also. So there are all the different components of our modern world at the nanoscale. There's as many as you can probably think of that are already done. I don't know if people are aware that they're making clothing now that generates electricity and power, and you can charge your phone or turn on a little light in your coat from moving around. Uh, and we have now some fabrics that are coming out that are bulletproof and knife proof that are graphene based. And as Michelle asked earlier, a lot of this is graphene based technology. Whether the specific nanoparticles that are doing the neuroswarm have graphene in them or not, I'm not positive on that technology broken down at that level for sure yet. But I know that graphene will be part of the system because it's one of the miraculous things about the graphene is that how they are able to capture light at partial wavelengths. So they cannot just have a light frequency. Most things, light frequencies hit a sensor and it, does what it does and we pick it up. But the concept of being able to reach out and snatch some light and hold on to it in a partial wave that's just pretty crazy at the nano scale. And then they found that light can cause torque and a force moment, so they can create both mechanical and electrical energy from light and back and forth. And so that again is why when we were learning about this, it can be picked up in light and radio frequency and so on and so forth. So we're reaching a point in technology where things are going to be starting to be more like Star Trek than an old western. And we need to hold on to our little boots because here we go. So one of the things that they want to do with this program and have already set up is the government. I want to make sure on the agency it is, but they have a program which is nothing, intimidating or anything. It's called Sentinel, and Sentinel is by the FDA. And people were talking about digital medical stuff. Sentinel is a biosurveillance system that will be um, keeping track of us, and it will be connected to another system called Prism. And these two systems together will effectively spy on us in every aspect of what we do. They'll be attached to sensors in our bodies that will know when your mood changes or your blood pressure goes up or you haven't been eating right. Um, it's pretty in depth. I think I shared something on those briefly. Um, yeah, I did share on Sentinel, and let's see. I don't know why they're out of order now, but I'll make sure I share on Prism too. And then where I was wanting to go, and so anyway, these are the government mechanisms that are going to be, giving them the legal and authoritative arm to do the things that we're talking about them being able to do scientifically, if you will. I want to talk about one other little paper. Did you have something to say? Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for you actually. So, do you think that this WHO treaty that is currently being signed by governments all over the West is related to this, giving over authority to these
Absolutely.
things? Okay.
Absolutely, yes. In fact, yeah. So, so yeah, the WHO and the countries giving off their authority and their sovereignty and signing over to them. And then what will happen is these programs that none of us know about will start to be implemented. And so you'll think Sentinel and Prism are, United States programs, but they'll have seceded that authority into other entities to run them, or one above those that runs all of those. It's ridiculously layered. And again, this is all directly, part of a biometric security, biometric scanning. It's all wirelessly reading you and keeping track of you from afar. Give me just a second. I also posted a thing in here. It's a link called Doctroid. And what it has is I don't know how good it is. It might be great, might not. I don't know why it's not showing up when I click on it through you guys. Hopefully, making sure. I guess this is a test if it works. So what it does on my end here is it's novel nanotechnology-based antiviral agents, and so it talks about different types of nano materials, talks about silver nanoparticles, hemorrhagic fever viruses, and just a whole bunch of different little bits of information that one might want to know. It's just 22 pages of each one's kind of a little, cell surface expressions, dynamic light scattering. Just if anybody's into that kind of thing, you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole, like gold nanoparticle treated, showing particles put into infected cells, and just some of the tests and stuff. It's just for certain people probably don't want to see that. Anyway, so these other articles are pretty good. They go at different angles on the same concept. What I want to talk about real quick, if I could, is this scientific research paper from MP or MDPI, and that is Emerging Applications of Nanotechnology in Healthcare Systems, Grand Challenges and Perspectives. And so this paper is well, that's what it is. It's going to cover the big challenges and perspectives of nanotechnology in healthcare, and it's an interesting paper. It's not as deep as some of the other papers on this subject, but it's got a couple of little graphics that help it make sense to people, and it's a pretty short read. So, just briefly, without me reading the whole paper, I'll just talk about. I'll reference a couple things here. So there's a bunch of concerns about the emerging applications of nanotechnology in healthcare, and they have a lot of challenges, and there are different perspectives on it. And they consider healthcare in this paper as a basic human right. So that's their spin on it. They consider that nanobiotechnology is a recently coined term that emerged from blending molecular biology and nanotechnology. It's a branch of science which revolves around structures or functional materials at the nanoscale. We are produced by employing both physical and chemical methods. That's how we're made, and that's how the things in our body do what they do. Sorry about the background noise. Let's see, where I was. In the last 30 years, the discipline of nanotechnology has been a crucial area of research due to the unique chemical. And this is what's so crazy about it. It's very simple molecules, and it has unique chemical, electrical, optical, biological, and magnetic properties. It also has radio frequency and dielectric properties that they don't mention in this paper. Oh, yeah, it mentions optical. Okay. Nanotechnology has managed to attract a lot of attention because it has established fact that when nanotechnology joins hands with biotechnology, they give birth to a platform which holds immense potential and importance with respect to diversity in applications. Some of these applications include medical imaging, diagnostic kits, diagnostic assays, biological sensors, dentistry, sterilization of medical device surfaces, sunscreens, cosmetics, sports equipment, textiles, environmental cleanup, inactivation and modification, and the development of nanotechnology has provided mankind with some incredible tools that allow the delineation process to a degree which was considered to be next to impossible just a few years ago. Now, there are various types of nanoparticles, such as metals, metal oxides, semiconductors, organics, inorganics, and other types that have been synthesized in order to exploit their properties. So, I won't go any farther on that right there. I just want to introduce what we're talking about. And here's a variety of nanosystems that I'm going to reference. If you want to follow with what I'm saying, I'm actually in that paper that I posted that is called, I'm reading out right now off this paper called Emergent Applications of Nanotechnology in Healthcare Systems, Grand Challenges and Perspectives. I am reading from page 4 of 27. I'm looking at the little graphic, and I'm going to describe some of the things. Are we all working? Okay, we're all working. So
Just
on page
really
4,
quick, Michael,
yes, sir.
I'm just going to interject really quick for anybody who wants to follow along as Michael is talking about this. It's pinned up at the top in the nest.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. And if I'm talking too fast, let me know. Um, so what we have here is various nano systems, and there's dendromeres, liposomes, quantum dots, which we'll try to get to some of those here in a little bit, micelles, and nanospheres, which are extremely complex and a lot to go on with those, nanoparticles, which can be simple or extremely complex, and polymetric nanoparticles and carbon nanotubes. And now there is a whole bunch of other areas that spin off of carbon nanotubes. And there's also nanosheets and other configurations with graphene. The carbon nanotube is a type of graphene. So these nanosystems have some applications in healthcare. And it's interesting because they can do multiple things in healthcare. One of the things they can do is gene therapy, nanoparticles and nanotechnologies, i.e., you notice up there liposomes and lipid nanoparticles can be used in gene therapy, which is modification of the gene. They can be used for drug delivery past the blood brain barrier 6 ways to Sunday. They can be used for cancer therapy. They can also cause cancer. They can be used to treat genetic disorders or genetically modify you. They can also treat ocular diseases, which is a really good thing. But some of the technology that's used to treat ocular diseases actually goes in and recoats part of the inner eye and the rods and cones and binds into the optic nerve and allows a person with the right device to see through your eyes and to utilize your eyes to generate uh, energy within your mind, if you will, and brain to tap for other resources so they can use the light energy and what you look at to generate other types of energy, but mostly see through your eyes. And that's happening and that's there, and they're developing that and have already used that technology. Okay, but it's being claimed to use for blind people and help ocular diseases. Then there's cardiovascular diseases, and the cardiovascular diseases, they're trying to help with that, and blood clotting and all the other things that are going on. But there's also another reason because of improved cardiovascular systems that can be modified and increased capacity. And then, of course, brain and central nervous system disorders, and the same thing with that. Help poor, sick people that are disabled or modify and improve people who are not. There's on the next page, it just briefly talks about and talks about nanoparticles, carbon nanotubes, and these in it, and it gives you some of their uses and things that they can be used for. I'm not going to go into that. You can read more about it because there's a lot more than this paper covers. This one only covers the narrow aspects of your health. I want to go down to the next little graphic on page 7 and just draw your attention to how they use these nanosystems. They insert them into cells. Let's see, when was this paper? I think this is 2021, but I'll make sure. Remember the other one was 2014. Yeah, 2021. So that was a couple years ago. So they're probably doing it in 2019 when they started, probably, or 2020. So they use these nanosystems that they've developed, and they have the technology to build them one atom at a time, so they're extremely precise. They insert them into different cells, and they can insert them into a variety of different tissues, and they can be used for tracking. They can be put into stem cells and used for modification of stem cells, and they can yeah, there's a lot here they can do. They then can do formations of blood cells. What they want to do is be able to regrow parts, regrow uh, damaged tissue, which again could be a good thing. They do have an area talking about making things glow for detections. That's something that they do to reference so when the complete reaction has happened. One of the things that this paper bothers me about is this paper came out in 2021. I do not believe that the top doctors in medical science didn't know this, but this paper here spells out on page 10 6 different ways that lipid nanoparticle or nanoparticles can pass through the blood brain barrier in these 6 different ways. Now, this is disturbing because many of our medical heroes have been so shocked and stunned that they would do this in the vaccine. And to be honest, in their professions, they probably should have known that this was possible. And definitely Dr. Monroe, who wrote the paper in 2020, 2021, that ADE was going to happen if we used mRNA. And then the Indian paper that came out right after that showing that ivermectin was a viable treatment. Anyway, so this little graphic just shows you the 6 different ways it passes the blood-brain barrier. And so this paper goes on and talks about all these different aspects about our health. It talks about how we can repair optic nerves. We can do spinal cord injury repair. We can do stroke and other types of injury repair from that. So there is a lot of good that can be done if it's used for good. The problem is that it's not always used for good. Anybody have any questions?
I think we're good for now. It's a lot, probably for most of us to take in. Um,
Yeah, I'm going to
not
cut it
not
short
just
too.
yeah, well, not just because it's a lot of information and it's heavy information, but like it's if we're being frank, it's terrifying as well. So I have a feeling a lot of people are just digesting as they're listening. I know that's what I'm
Yeah,
doing.
and let's address some of that too, because I think a lot of us here may accept the fact that this is possible, uh, eh, or is a reality. I'm probably not really convincing anyone of that. And then, like you say, I agree. The realization of it is terrifying. And one of the things that's really bothered me about this is I hadn't quite got to it, but I just kind of jumped to it. Is that we don't have to have all this stuff injected into us. There's a whole bunch of other ways that this can get in us, and those ways are being done around us constantly. And and so yes, it is terrifying. And then seeing with the United the Naval Research Institute did these studies in the 70s of the millimeter waves and other wave frequencies, that how much damage they actually cause, how much they actually know, how many areas of the body and of the mind and of our condition that this radio frequencies affect us. It's just stunning. I don't know, maybe I'll post that in here too. I'll grab that and throw it in there so people can have access to that, because that's just it's just mind-blowing that since the 70s, I mean, we know about the voice of God technology. I think the prophet talked about that. But they've known they can make you ill. They can give you anxiety, depression. I mean, now we have the clot shot, the heart attack shot, the stroke shot. Um, but yeah, it's been around for so long. It's been held under the radar. Go ahead, Santo.
Yeah, I apologize if I missed this, but inhalation, can they administer these nanoparticles through inhalation? We inhale them like a mini puffer or something.
Yeah, aerosolized particles. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there was actually a study. or rather not a study, but research, which was circulating last year, and it had actually been published, I want to say 2016, maybe early 2017, that discussed exactly just that, being able to introduce vaccines, or nanotechnology, and it specifically talked about nanotechnology, through aerosolized particles. And that came out of a research lab in MIT as well. So apparently something they had been working on for quite some time, because by the time it's developed and they've published their findings and the development of these technologies, they've already been working on it for years, sometimes decades, as Michael just pointed out.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to throw in the bubble also a paper that I think I referenced. I talked about. I'll see if I can throw an image up there. I hate to always have them when they don't have an image. It's something to get people to hold on to. Uh, this paper that I'm throwing. Oh my gosh, my phone gonna lock up. This paper. Okay, well, I hope y'all can hear me because it seems like my phone's locking up. But this paper here is, I'll post it in a second. Um, it's blocking the interactions between the human ACE2 and coronavirus spike glycoprotein by selected drugs, a computational perspective. This was done April 4th of 2021 is when they received it and accepted it by June 7th of 2021. This was done as part of the emergency of trying to get a vaccine for coronavirus. Now, remember, I talked earlier about the paper that showed using mRNA vaccines would cause ADE, that Dr. Monroe and all of these people knew from the beginning that these mRNA vaccines would cause ADE and a whole bunch of other bad problems, and very likely, very, very, very likely. And then that's the first study I referenced. And now this study is where they were looking for therapeutics because of the knowledge of the ADE problem, and they discovered ivermectin was the hands down winner. Ivermectin had a greater affinity to the spike protein on either end and stopped and bound to the spike protein before the spike protein would bind to the human ACE2 receptor. And it had less of affinity to the ACE2 human receptor than it did to the spike protein. And in this study, you'll be able to see all the other drugs that they used and compared, and where even hydrochloroquine and chloroquine both were not as good. They attached to both the ACE2 and the spike equally, so they wouldn't be quite as good for you. But yeah, so they overlooked that too. So I'm going to post that here in just a second, and then we'll keep moving
They
on.
they didn't so much overlook it as they hid it on purpose, um, very intentionally, in a meaningful way. I mean, the NHS in the UK, um, tasked a group of doctors led by Dr. Andrew Hill, um, to research ivermectin very early on at the beginning of this pandemic. And he confirmed that, um, that he found ivermectin to be wholly 100% effective against this virus, not just this, but others, when ivermectin is used. Um, and a conversation that he had was actually caught on video, in a Zoom meeting that he had with one of his colleagues who apparently was on the research team. And he admits, in this, what he thought was private conversation, that he was told to suppress that information. So
Wow, did we have a problem and lose a bunch of people just now, or I got kicked out of the space while you were talking and barely got back in it.
Oh, yeah, I see the number is down to 20 people.
Wasn't it?
So
Yeah,
possibly
wasn't it like I thought it was a little bigger than that just a couple minutes ago, but I wasn't. Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was a little bit more than double that.
Yeah, that's really weird. So I wonder if it just kicked a bunch of other people out like it just did me, because completely kicked me out of Twitter just now when you said, as soon as you started talking about ivermectin, it booted me out of Twitter.
Ivermectin and Andrew Hill.
Yep, yep. So, well, go ahead if you. Santo's got his hand up. Go ahead, Santo, and I'm going to go ahead and try to post that again. Oh, it took my
Yeah.
bubble. I can't post it. Oh.
DM it to me, Michael, and I'll post it
All
up
right,
there.
thank you. Go ahead, Santo.
Yeah, with ivermectin, is it not more effective the earlier they use it, like they say in the replication stage?
So no, research, that's what we thought early on, but research has since shown, other people who've done extensive studies on it have found that with longer use in just slightly higher doses, it is equally as efficacious at any stage, at any period.
Yeah, I caught COVID and I was hanging out with this, actually doing some work with this person, and I came in one day and I mean, I was just so tired. It just zapped my energy. And I said to her, I said, I don't know. I think I'm going home early today. I said, I just, maybe I'm getting too old to work or something. Well, within the about 24 hours, I realized that I had something, and she works for the University of Michigan, and she had to test a lot because she didn't take the shot, and she said, I'm kind of feeling funky too, but she says I'm taking ivermectin right away. And she said, I've got some test kits. So we both tested positive. She wound up taking it early, and she said that she felt bad for 3 days, but while not that bad, she was cutting grass and taking care of her house and her yard and all that stuff. And so it was like nothing for her. But I didn't take it till after about having it a week. And I mean, I take a lot of nutritional stuff, but I felt pretty funky for about 10 days to 2 weeks. But I finally did get some from her, and it seemed like once I started taking it, it helped me recover too. So
Yeah, it sounds like that probably could have just been a dosing thing for you from the research I've read anyway. Um, Interesting on that same note, they're finding for the same reasons, but the mechanism is obviously a little different, that nicotine is equally efficacious. And that's not to say go out and smoke if you get COVID, or if you want to try to avoid getting COVID, and lots of other viruses, by the way. Not It's not limited just to this lab created virus that they released. But we have, amongst others, we have nicotine receptors, and so once nicotine has bound with those nicotine receptors, what they've found is it's inhibiting the folding of the spike proteins, which is how they replicate. So it effectively inhibits that replication process. And they've been able to demonstrate this just with use of a nicotine patch. So if you can't get a hold of ivermectin, which would probably be your best first line, read up on that, on nicotine.
Yep, she's right. So very good, very good. So what we have here is we have basically, now we know that they want to use technology either by injection or by infection or by poisoning our food, air, or water to get into us. They don't need it in everyone. The devices that will be attached to this will obviously work better and have greater detail and control where it is in everyone, but the weaponry is such that the amount of suffering and control and manipulation of others to conform will be great. So many people may change their minds who say, "Well, I'll never do it," and then once they're under enough misery and hunger, they may change their minds. One of the things about this is that we're not being, a gentleman said in another space, that, oh, we weren't going to have digital ID for quite a while, talking about old people using flip phones, and as if it was going to be some kind of a choice. They're not making it a choice. They don't even have to create tragedies and lockdowns, which are doing, but I think, as Bob pointed out, and others, and in my state, they already have real ID, or mandatory digital identification is a requirement. Many doctors' offices offer, and insurance companies offer, digital medical records. In fact, they encourage that you carry digital medical records, and your iPhone is capable. I'm sure probably everyone knows that your phone is capable of carrying digital medical records. And
It's also a federal requirement that doctors' offices and hospitals within the United States have those,
yep,
and that's been the case for almost a decade now.
yep. And so what we're leading up to is kind of that old. It kind of fits with that saying of a government powerful enough to give you everything you need is powerful enough to take everything you have, right? I don't think people ever it's kind of like when I heard the first time I heard the "go along to get along." I always, when I was a boy, I'd hear this phrase, "We just got to go along to get along," which I always hated. I hated that idea, but I hated it in the way that I first understood it. I also hate it in the second way. I don't hate many things, but the problem is that I interpreted it as you had to go along to get along. Like, if you want to do well, you kind of have to, don't buck the system too hard. Well, there's another way that is used in the world today, and that's you'd better do what we say, or you're going to be hurt. Got to go along to get along. You don't go along, you ain't getting anywhere, basically. And what I was just saying with the other way, it's kind of in the same way. This stuff can be used to save our lives. It can be used to heal us. It can be used to do all these great things. Oh my gosh, I know grandma's having a heart attack right now. We can, push a button and it'll give her medication that's already inside her body, right? Or whatever. But it also can be used because you have the wrong point of view, or say something, and all of a sudden your finances don't work, your bank don't work, your credit's gone, or worse yet, you're uh can't walk, or throwing up, or whatever level of punishment is chosen. And that's my concern, is this is all realities that many of them have been prophesied for a long, long time. And it's all coming together. And I heard somebody talk in the beginning about circadian rhythms. We were talking about waking up in the middle of the night. Yeah, the blue lights are actually part of that whole thing too. It is all part of this whole system.
Yeah, the blue lights can definitely interfere with your circadian cycles. Um, I was going to take what you were saying to a really dark place, and I'm going to preface it with, this is completely theory. I have nothing to base this on. Please do not take this as fact. But what if? Uh, you were talking about how they would be able to control all of these processes, and even down to our autonomic responses, right, within our body, having this technology implanted in us. There's a huge push worldwide, especially here in North America, Canada, and the US, recently, for physician assisted suicide, compassionate, uh, euthanasia or end of life, or they're calling it lots of different things, right, in different states and within Canada. But there's a huge push, and it's gone to a really dark place in Canada. But uh, theoretically, maybe it's not even theoretical at this point. Like, rather than giving you a handful of pills to do that, they could, because they can control your autonomic responses. So that is like the electrical currency which powers your heart, um, or your lungs, or your brain. Um, they could shut that down. I hadn't
Absolutely.
ever thought of that
In
till now.
fact, and I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure it's part of their goals is to monitor your biometrics and your health and your body to such a point that then, like today, how in Canada you can say I'm too depressed, and oh, you're so sad. Well, fine, here we'll put you down. Um, they could create a criteria such that where AI is monitoring the system, and once you've reached a certain threshold of, say, depression, anxiety, health issues, whatever the variables are, that it could automatically shut you off. Um, so it could be decided by people remotely, case by case, but it could also be integrated into a system where it was just decided. I don't know if people have ever seen, again, it was another old Star Trek where they went to a planet and they used virtual digital warfare, and then when the computer told them what the outcome of the war was, people had to go report to suicide booths where they would be then vaporized to maintain, so they didn't have the horrors and the bloodshed of war. It was all clean and tidy, and so anyway, but so yeah, they could easily do that. Totally possible. Just turn you off at whatever criteria was decided. That it all could. That's yeah, all easily doable.
I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but then all of this does, doesn't it? Even the things that we've already
That's the
seen
thing. It's
come to
science
fruition.
fiction. It's science fiction. I mean, like
Yeah,
we're talking about Star Trek.
science
We're
fiction.
talking about, I mean, in talking about the Star Trek, like
Right.
for example, the old '60s Star Trek. We have weapons. They're not quite handheld like the phaser, but we are really close. We have medical things that can do what they do. In fact, a lot of the stuff even in those shows they didn't predict, but some they did, like the taking of consciousness and storing consciousness in a vessel outside the body and then re-putting it in the body. They had what they called androids, which were humanoid like robots that were so human that you couldn't tell them apart from the outside, but they were robotic inside. Yeah, they had a lot of crazy stuff, and they covered a lot of topics too. They covered things like energy forces that gained power by the negativity and suffering of people, and other energy, and then they became weak when people were kind and good to each other. And so, so many
Well,
subjects were
and
covered in that show.
in that that the Vodafone presentation that I mentioned earlier, they lay all of this out. They don't, I mean, they're not saying this is what we hope to do in the future. This is saying this is what we have the technology to do, and it'll be implemented by 2030. And it's not just accessing your biometrics, but they clearly demonstrate that they access every part, down to a cellular level, or down to your DNA. Um, they can access every part of your being, including all of these
Yep,
processes.
yep. In fact, we're only scratching the surface here in this discussion. Well, maybe we should kind of here wrap up in a little bit. But what you're talking about here is all of the multiple functions and levels that this technology can do. And one of the goals of this technology is to use the energy of your body, whether it's electrical, dielectric, chemical, mechanical. This is one of the reasons they've been dealing with the devices like our phones use our voices. They figured out how to use the power of your voice to create little small bits of electrical energy that they can harness just from us speaking on our phones. They've figured out how to use the eyes to uh, uh, communicate and as a interface between the light with the phones. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on between our minds and our devices when we're looking at it that we're not even aware of. Um, and so yeah, you're right, there's a lot, and the ability to operate all these different systems, it's it's really is kind of dark, and it is eventually what they want to do is, like I said, you'll be the power of the battery that runs the system. You will have a biometric scanning that will know all of your health and monitoring. It will know your moods and your thought processes. Some of them may even read your thoughts. That's what the neuroswarm we originally were talking about, is it could literally read your thoughts. And then your thoughts could be used to control things, or you could go the other way and it could be used to control you. And then we add the next layer to all that, and that, oh my gosh, I must be getting tired. That this nanotechnology, by controlling, like you said, your respiration, your neurology, all of these things, you, you're really, um, you're really left to becoming a slave. And they've been developing, you were talking about DNA, they've been developing the technology to use DNA as a storage. So I don't know if anybody knows this, but 1 cubic millimeter of DNA, I think it's 27 terabytes, or it's a lot. It's like tons of terabytes of data can be stored in a little tiny speck of DNA. Your body then can be your power source. We have talked about all the devices that can be made to run and utilize in you, including antennas and stuff. And so what people are going to become is, you're going to become a node, and on your body, inside of you, you will carry uh, all of the information needed. So you won't need a chip. You won't need a facial scan. You'll be able to be measured from a distance, and that's where they're heading.
because
And this has all been laid out,
because you're the
huh?
device, because you have become the
That's right.
device.
You are a device, and you are a device that will be serving different functions. And this is one of the things we haven't even talked about, is some of this technology will make people have really, really tough skin, nearly bulletproof. There's a whole bunch of work that they've done in improving. This is some of the stuff that I haven't touched on yet, and that's the improving of the human uh, body for better performance from military and other things. This is laid out. It's actually laid out in detail in the Human Genome Project from the WEF, and in Canada and America, and that they are planning to build super soldiers and super athletes.
So here's a question. I'm going to take it to a better place, hopefully. Um, I know that when these bioweapons are created through gain of function, they're never created without an antidote. For obvious reasons. I mean, it would be stupid to create anything like that without an antidote, right? Um, but taking it even a step further to this place where they're introducing nanotechnology into one's being, um, I think it's probably safe to assume that there would have to be something to counter that as well. So, like with these boosters, not necessarily the initial injections, but um, with the boosters, the antidote, which is being more commonly accepted, is suramin, right? Um,
But it's
there
possible
has to
there could
be.
be no antidote for people that take the injection, and only the people that don't get it are the people that are going to have, still have issues, and still be, controllable. And there'll probably be ways of preventing
I
them.
don't know. I don't know, Michael. I think that if only to protect themselves, like you see happen in a lab setting, right? I mean, bioweapons have been created especially in the military. It's common knowledge. Like
Yeah,
this isn't you
I
don't
I agree.
believe me, but it's
I agree on the
common knowledge.
bioweapons part. I agree on that. But I think with the
But this is a bioweapon as well. So I mean, at its essence, that's what it is. It's a bioweapon. It would make no sense to me that they wouldn't create something that could counter this, if only to save themselves, right? So just like we were able to find out with the boosters that Sermon seems to be, through several at this point, research that's been conducted, that seems to effectively 100% counter these boosters, is Sermon. Um, there has to be something for this technology as well. I just can't believe, even instinctively, don't believe that there would be nothing, if for no other reason than to protect the people creating it. So there has to be something. I mean, that at least is, for me, I think is
No, I
hopeful.
agree with
Like
you. I
there
agree. I agree. You would not develop it because of the potential of all the potential problems. You would want to have some way out. The only thing is that the okay, like for the COVID, simple. For parts of the vaccine, simple. Those are all really simple. We've touched on some of them, but for some of the stuff where these lipid nanoparticles bind to cells and change their functions, I don't know how you would. But cells in the body do replenish, right? Isn't it true that all the cells in your body replace after a certain period of time? So then it could be possible that you could recover just even just with time if you had some of these things happen to you. So yeah, I think there's always a good possibility of hope and possibility, like chemical reactions. You can you can add two things together and create something, and then you can dissolve it and recreate, like salts. You can take a salt and dissolve it and recrystallize it and dissolve it again and recrystallize it in different sizes, and you can go back and forth. And so yes, there may be a way, and I would definitely hope so, to undo what they're doing. The trick is finding it without having to bang our heads on the wall to discover it through trial and error, but to find it.
I have a feeling that, and this is based on my very limited science background. I mean, I have some background in science, obviously, with what I do, but it's limited, let's be honest. But just instinctively with that, I I feel like it's not going to be a matter of just cell death and regeneration, right? I don't feel like that would be it, but I had a feeling there's something which would inactivate this technology in one's body.
Could be the med beds. Could be what those are for. I don't know. But I just know that we aren't going to have the ability, and what they're putting out here right now to the masses, and as it is right now, when we're talking about things like the neural swarm and total control of all these functions, you do have to accept the infrastructure into your body. That is not going to happen just from breathing some air and stuff. I don't want people to be fooled by that. That your food, your air, your water will add things that can make you sick and that can make you maybe suffer, but the idea of a full autonomical control and all that's you've got to put this stuff in you and allow it to be done. That's the whole point of the swarm, is it goes in and attaches and maps the brain, and without it they can't do the things that they want to do. So I agree that you're right, but I don't know that we're going to get that stuff. But there's always hope for everything, and there's always that this will fall and fail too. This technology could just be decided to be, not used, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't have any faith in that. Maybe
I
I've
don't
just gone
either. Too
too
many
far over
people
to the black
embrace it
hill.
is good.
But I mean, they're already implementing the development of these smart cities, or the 15-minute cities, right? And they're going to need this technology in order for those to be functional. Um, so I don't think they're going to backtrack on this. I just really don't. But
And
I
we got
think
to
you're
look
right.
at
It
that
has to
they're
be
evil
introduced. Like,
psychopaths, and some of it may not be as
right.
good as we want it to be.
Yeah. I don't know. But I really I think there has to be, it just stands to logic based on history of the development of these kind of things. There is something that can counter this. Um, I'm hopeful that someone, just like they did with the boosters with Sermon, will be able to find something to effectively inactivate these. Because I have a feeling that's what it is. It's an inactivation of it, not like um, not like a cleanse where you can take a nice organic coconut based activated charcoal and cleanse yourself over time of heavy metals, right? Or even graphene is what we're finding with that. um I don't think it'll be like that. I'm not sure that we would be able to eliminate it if it's gone into the DNA, into that structure, but um or even in, well, maybe into cells. I'm trying to think this through, sorry. um Maybe if it's only at a cellular level, if it's gone into the DNA, I don't know how they would be able to extract that, but
That
there has to be something to deactivate it.
Well, and again, we want that and we hope that, but it's possible that there isn't. I mean, maybe they've just gone too far. Uh, Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I know people that have said that they've, been genetically modifying people. They could just undo the genetic modifications. It's not quite that simple and straightforward. It's not like that. Salt's one thing, but genetics and proteins and enzymes are a little different. But so I'd like to be hopeful and I'd like to be optimistic, but I also try to think of it like being shot. If you get shot with a 12 gauge, sure, you might be able to be put back together, but you're going to have a lot of scarring and damage that will never be the same. So and who knows? Maybe what it'll come down to is that the only way to inactivate it is to stop the systems that run it. Meaning, the because all of this technology, if there's not something you know coming being used to connect to you, then it's probably not going to control or have any effect on you. So there's always that.
Yeah, no, you're right, because then it would just be left
Yeah,
inept. And when I referred to ceramine being an antidote, at least in theory, at this point it's kind of been proven, but we'll still call it theory, maybe, um an antidote to these boosters. It The technology, the mRNA technology which they used for these boosters, um, causes a mutation, a genetic mutation. And it's not undoing that, but it is stopping the replication process of the spike proteins and eliminating all of the other things which have been added to these boosters, eliminating those from your body. There's, as far as I know, and I've not read anything to the contrary, there's no reversing that genetic mutation which has already occurred. So there's
exactly.
no going back from that, but you can eliminate the other things.
Well, yeah, like oh, it's very complicated, and they're really trying to mess it up, and so there's always hope. And I guess to me right now, the first thing we got to do is stop it. We got to stop them from doing it. We got to stop it from coming at us, and stop the mechanisms that are being used to hurt us. And one of the other things that we have to remember, like the French doctor said, is remember Rwanda. It can be very difficult for us if a large portion of the population is flipped on like a switch to become very violent and very aggressive. And this is one of the things, it's a known uh, controllable variable with radio sickness, radio frequencies, and manipulations. So it could get really ugly if they started turning, you know, the zombie apocalypse on. Go ahead, Santo.
I'm not a virologist, but I've studied some of these things in college, and when you look at what a virus does, and nucleic acids and mRNA and stuff really is very similar to what happens when a virus enters a cell. It actually goes into the nucleus and disturbs the normal production of proteins that are used as enzymes for the function of the cell. But the T cells are able to determine a cell that is infected by a virus and destroys the cells. So, my question is there something that we can do to increase the availability and power of the T cells to destroy, the cells that have been infected by these mRNA, or essentially a virus?
Have you seen the papers on the damage that it's doing to the T cells, the TD8 or T8, or and that it's actually that there's actually damage going on to those actual cells, and there's some kind of hepatitis that people are getting from, I think it's from the vaccine. I have to go look up. I'll see if I can find that paper.
Well, so it's what I've read is it's more targeting the B cells, which is also part of your immune system. Um, they're lymphocytes that are they create this protein, but antibodies that bind to pathogens or like foreign substances, whatever, toxins, and neutralize them. And it's my understanding that it's primarily those which it's targeting are the B cells. So,
You're talking about the
and
virus,
yes,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about the vac.
Well, not just the virus, but the other things which are in uh these
This
injections.
study that I'm talking about here, let me read you what it's called. It says it's the SARS-CoV-2 vaccination, and says that it can elicit a CD8 T cell dominant hepatitis. And that this was done quite a few different doctors and people here in Germany. The Journal of Hepatology or something research article. Let's see, I can't find the date. I'm trying to find the date. April of 2022. And then I have some other ones about SARS virus vaccination causing vascular disease, thrombosis, and other things too. But we already probably know about that. Anyway, but yeah, they thought that CD8 T cell was something interesting.
Did you put a link in the bubble?
I can. I'll have to. Yeah, let me see what I can do here. Yeah.
So that's really
Thank
interesting,
you.
Michael, especially when you consider that your liver is how your body is going to eliminate all of these toxins that have been injected in you. Um, so it's gonna inhibit the liver's ability to cleanse your body, essentially. It's why in all of this, like even if you haven't been injected ever once, but especially if you have, liver cleanse monthly, at least 3 days, a really good liver cleanse. Um, yeah, that's interesting. I haven't read that study that you're referring to. But it makes sense when you consider that liver enzymes from the start of this, even just with the virus itself, but most especially since the injection has been introduced, liver enzymes, our LFTs, liver functions, have been through the roof in these people who've been injected. Um, and early on with the original virus and the Delta variant, liver enzymes just through the roof. So this, what you're saying, makes sense in light of all of that. So that brings up another question. I wonder why it is that we're not hearing anybody talk about this anymore. The involvement of the liver, Michael. Because that used to be a really big topic surrounding all of this, and then now it's just kind of gone quiet. I mean, even babies being born jaundiced with impaired hepatic function, when they're born to a mother who was injected while she was pregnant.
Yeah, you have a good point. I don't think I can post to the bubble, so I'm gonna DM that T cell thing to you guys if you can. That would be great. If not, at least you have it. You and I think didn't Santo ask for it? Oh,
Yes, please.
oh, Santo, you got to follow me before I can send it to you. Unless can you send it to him? Seeing the link.
Yeah. Do we follow each other, Santo? No, we don't follow each other either. I'll post it up in the
Oh, there you
nest.
go. That'll work. Thanks. I just
Yeah.
can't do it right at the moment.
Yeah, I've tried to follow you, but it just says pending.
Oh
It
well,
just won't go through
I'll
for
go try
some
to fix
reason.
that. Okay, that's fixed. So, and if anybody else wants it, it'll be in the nest. Seeing, will put it up there. And then there's some other things that the vaccine has caused problems with people, in the immune system, the T cells, the ADE. The vaccine is a nasty thing. So I didn't want to do this space too long, and I wanted to kind of keep it on the subject of the swarm technology, the neural swarm. And I know we've kind of bounced around a little bit, but mostly, that is what we did cover. And so if everybody's cool, I'm going to go ahead and close this space. And then we can always do another one another time. It's easier for me if I can do them in chunks like this.
Wait before, give it just a couple
Yeah,
minutes so I
yeah,
can get
yeah,
this
no
posted up
problem.
for everyone.
Yeah, no problem. And then also, if anybody has any questions or wants to do a space on any aspect of what's going on that you want to learn more about, that'd be fine. Like I'm thinking I should go do another one on graphene. I did a graphene 101 space one time, but I think maybe I should do another one on that and show all these. There's just so many different ways that it can be used, and to understand and have visual relationships really helps people. If anyone's interested, we'll see. But I'm just open if people want to share any ideas. So.
Thank you for this information. It's been very enlightening.
Hey, no problem, man. I'll try to throw some more up if I can.
Okay, I've got it up at the top for anybody who wants to read through that article. We'll give it just a couple minutes before we shut down. A lot of really good information here today, MW. Thank you for putting this space together.
Thank you. Thank you for co-hosting and giving me a hand.
Always a pleasure. All right. So if everyone has it, everyone who wants it has it, so that Michael can go on with his life and I can go spend some time with my mom. Uh, I think we're at a good place to stop. What do you think, Michael? MW.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I actually hear my dog barking, and I think someone showed up at my house. So, yeah, this
Perfect
might be a
timing.
good time. So, yeah, if everybody's good, and anybody can DM me if there's something we missed, we'll close it down. Okay.
Thanks
Talk.
everyone for being here. We appreciate everybody's input, and even for those of you who didn't take a mic but sat back and listened, you have a lot of good information that you can share with others. So thank you all for being here.
Yes, thank you all. It was a good space. I have to go though. I'm sorry. I'm going to close it now.